Admiral Kethvar stood before the massive display wall of the Eternal Vigilance, watching the slow dance of patrol ships across 47 star systems. The Zilani hegemony had ruled this part of space for 3,000 years, and every day brought the same peaceful routine. Green dots moved along their assigned paths. Status reports flowed in every hour. Nothing ever changed. The fortress hung in the darkness between stars, its sensors reaching out like invisible fingers to touch every corner of hegemony space. Admiral Kethvar had commanded this outpost for 12 years, and in all that time, only 3 ships had tried to enter their territory without permission. All 3 have been destroyed before they could send a single message. "Admiral, we have the morning reports," said Lieutenant Vextar, approaching with a datapad in his 4-fingered hands. His purple skin showed the nervous patterns that young officers always displayed around their superiors. Kethvar took the pad without looking at the lieutenant. The numbers were always the same. Patrol ships reporting normal status. Cargo vessels moving on schedule. Mining stations producing their quotas. Border sensors showing empty space. Everything perfect, just as it should be. "Sir," Vextar said, his voice uncertain. "There is one small thing in the reports." "What kind of thing?" Kethvar asked, still reading the standard data. The outer sensor grid picked up an object 8 hours ago. Grid Station 77 detected something moving through the Kethmar system. Kethvar looked up from the pad. The Kethmar system was on the very edge of their territory, where only automated sensors watched for trouble. No one lived there. No trade routes passed through. It was just empty space with a few dead planets. "What kind of object?" Vextar's skin patterns grew more nervous. "That is the strange part, sir. The sensors show something is there, but the computer cannot identify what it is. A ship? Maybe, sir. The size readings say it could be a ship. But the energy readings do not match anything in our databases. And the speed?" Vextar paused. "What about the speed?" "The computer says it is moving faster than any known ship class." "Much faster." Kethvar set down the datapad and walked to the sensor display. He pressed a few controls, and the screen showed the outer edge of their Tori. A small red dot blinked in the empty space near Kethmar. "Show me the detailed readings," he ordered. Dot numbers appeared beside the red dot. Kethvar read them twice, then frowned. According to the sensors, the object was roughly the size of a small warship. Its energy output was almost zero, which made no sense for something moving so fast. And the speed reading was impossible. "This says the object is moving at 4 times the maximum speed of our fastest ships," Kethvar said. "Yes, sir. I checked the readings 3 times. Have you run diagnostics on the sensor grid?" "Yes, sir. All systems show normal operation." Kethvar studied the display for a long moment. In 3,000 years of hegemony rule, their scientists had mapped every possible ship design, every energy signature, every method of space travel. The databases contained information on 600 different species and their technologies. Nothing could surprise them anymore. It must be a sensor error, he decided. Something is wrong with the equipment at Grid Station 77. "Sir, I thought the same thing. But 3 other stations have now detected the same object. The readings are consistent across all sensors." The Admiral felt a small flutter of unease in his chest, but pushed it away. The hegemony had the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Their computers could analyze any ship in seconds. Their weapons could destroy entire fleets. Nothing in space could move faster than their ships without using energy signatures they would recognize. "What is the object's course?" he asked. Vextar operated the controls, and a line appeared on the screen showing the object's path. The line pointed directly toward the center of hegemony space, toward their most important worlds. "Is it maintaining this course?" Yes, sir. For 8 hours now, it has not changed direction. Kefir walked back to his command chair and sat down heavily. The red dot on the screen seemed to mock him with its impossible readings. Ships did not move that fast. Energy signatures did not remain unknown to hegemony sensors. Objects did not appear from nowhere and fly toward their core worlds. Send a message to Fleet Command, he ordered. Tell them we have detected an unidentified object in the outer territories. Include all sensor data. Yes, sir. Should I order patrol ships to investigate? No. The nearest patrol is 6 hours away, and this object will be long gone before they arrive. He paused, looking at the display again. Continue monitoring. Update me every hour. Vexstar saluted and left the bridge. Kefir remained in his chair, staring at the red dot. In his 12 years of command, nothing like this had ever happened. In the 3,000 years of hegemony history, nothing like this had ever happened. He called up the historical databases and began searching for similar incidents. Surely there had been sensor errors before. Surely there had been unidentified objects that turned out to be nothing important. But as he read through the records, his unease grew stronger. The hegemony sensors had never failed to identify an object. Their databases had never lacked information on an energy signature. Their science had never encountered technology they could not understand. An hour later, Vexstar returned with an updated report. The object was still there, still moving impossibly fast, still heading toward the core worlds. Now it was deeper into hegemony territory, and more sensor stations were tracking it. Sir, Vexstar said, the computer has revised its speed calculations. Oh? The object appears to be moving even faster than we first thought. The new readings show. He paused, checking his datapad again. The new readings show speeds that our physics models say are impossible. Admiral Kefir looked at the red dot on his screen and felt something he had not experienced in many years: fear. Chief Analyst Morden had not slept in 18 hours. The data streaming across his screens made no sense, and that terrified him more than he wanted to admit. For 20 years, he had worked in the Hegemony Central Intelligence Division, analyzing threats and studying alien technologies. Every problem had a solution. Every mystery had an answer. Until now. Run the calculations again, he told his assistant, a young female named Ishara, whose spotted skin had turned pale with exhaustion. Sir, I have run them 17 times. The results are always the same. Morden rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the main display. The unknown object had been moving through their space for 36 hours now, and with each passing hour, it became more impossible to explain. Show me the velocity graph, he ordered. The screen filled with a curved line that climbed steadily upward. At first, the object had been moving at 4 times the speed of their fastest ships. 6 hours later, it was moving 5 times faster. Now it was moving at 7 times their maximum speed, and the line showed no signs of leveling off. No ship can maintain that kind of acceleration, Morden said to himself. The crew would be crushed. The hull would tear apart. Maybe it is not a ship, Ishara suggested. Maybe it is some kind of natural phenomenon we have never seen before. Natural phenomena do not maintain perfect straight-line courses toward our core worlds, Morden replied. He pulled up another screen showing the object's path. For 36 hours, it had not deviated even slightly from its course toward the hegemony capital system. The communication panel chimed, and Admiral Zeshara's face appeared on the screen. The fleet admiral looked as tired as Morden felt. Her usually perfect uniform wrinkled from long hours of emergency meetings. Analyst Morden, what is your latest assessment? Admiral, we are dealing with technology that exceeds our understanding by a significant margin. The object continues to accelerate beyond what our physics models allow. Have you identified its species of origin? Morden hesitated. This was the part that worried him most. No, Admiral. We have checked every database, every historical record, every piece of intelligence we have collected in 3,000 years. This technology does not match anything we have encountered. That is impossible. Our databases include information on every spacefaring species in the galaxy. Yes, Admiral. That is what makes this so concerning. Zeshar's expression grew grim. What about communication attempts? We have transmitted on every known frequency, in every known language. We have sent mathematical sequences, musical patterns, and visual signals. The object has not responded to any of our attempts. On another screen, Morden watched as the object passed through the Veltar system. Their long-range telescopes were tracking it now, and the images they sent back only added to the mystery. The object appeared to be solid, roughly ship-shaped, but its surface reflected light in ways that made no sense. Admiral, Ishara called out from her station. The object just changed course. Morden spun around to look at her screen. The object had indeed altered its path, but the manner of the course change made his blood run cold. How long did the turn take? He asked. No time at all, sir. One moment it was heading toward Veltar Prime. The next moment it was on a new heading toward the Nexmore system. The change was instantaneous. Show me the gravitational readings during the turn. Ishara's fingers flew over her controls. Data appeared showing the massive gravitational forces that any ship would experience during such an abrupt change of direction. According to these readings, Ishara said, her voice barely above a whisper, anything inside that ship should have been turned into paste against the walls. Admiral Zesharai leaned forward in her chair. Are you saying this object can ignore the basic laws of physics? I am saying this object operates under laws of physics we do not understand, Morden replied carefully. He did not want to admit that everything they thought they knew about space travel might be wrong. The communication panel chimed again, and Admiral Kethver's face appeared alongside Zeshara's. His usual calm composure was cracking under the strain of watching the impossible. Chief Analyst, I need answers. This object has been in our space for 36 hours, and we know nothing about it. My officers are beginning to panic. I understand your concern, Admiral. We are working around the clock, too. Working is not enough. Kethver interrupted. I need results. Is this object a threat to the hegemony? Morden looked at the data streaming across his screens. An unknown ship with impossible technology, heading toward their core worlds, ignoring all attempts at communication, and demonstrating abilities that surpass their own by an enormous margin. I believe we must assume it is a threat. Admiral, then we need to stop it. Admiral Zeshara nodded grimly. I am authorizing the deployment of the inexorable truth. Captain Dexhar will intercept this object in the Nexmore system. The inexorable truth was the most advanced ship in the hegemony fleet, equipped with weapons that could destroy small moons and shields that could withstand almost any attack. If anything could stop the unknown object, it would be that ship. Admiral, Morden said carefully, I recommend extreme caution. We do not know what this object is capable of. Our ship has the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, Zeshara replied. Whatever this thing is, it will submit to hegemony authority or be destroyed. After the Admiral signed off, Morden turned back to his screens. The unknown object continued its impossible journey through space, now heading directly toward where the inexorable truth would be waiting. In 12 hours, they would have their first direct confrontation with technology that challenged everything they thought they knew. Ishara looked up from her station. Sir, do you really think our ship can stop it? Morden stared at the velocity readings, the energy signatures that made no sense, the course changes that defied physics. I honestly do not know. But I fear we are about to discover that the galaxy is much larger and more dangerous than we ever imagined. The object continued moving toward its rendezvous with the hegemony's most powerful warship. And Morden could not shake the feeling that they were about to start a fight they could not win. Captain Dexar stood on the bridge of the inexorable truth, watching his crew prepare for what might be the most important battle in hegemony history. The ship's weapons were charged, shields were at maximum power, and every system was running perfectly. In 5 minutes, the unknown object would enter weapons range. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV. Distance closing rapidly, reported his tactical officer. I see it, Dexar replied, studying the main display. The object appeared as a small dot of light against the stars, moving faster than anything should be able to move. Maintain course. Prepare to transmit our identification demand. The inexorable truth was the pride of the hegemony fleet. Its weapons could crack planets, its shields could withstand the explosion of a small star, and its sensors could detect a single ship from 10 light years away. Captain Dexar had commanded this vessel for 8 years, and it had never failed to accomplish its mission. Contact is now within maximum weapons range, the tactical officer announced. Open all communication channels, Dexar ordered. Transmit on every frequency. Channels open, sir. Dexar stepped forward, his voice carrying the full authority of 3,000 years of hegemony rule. Unknown vessel, you are in violation of hegemony space. Identify yourself immediately and submit to inspection, or you will be destroyed. For long seconds, only empty space answered. The object continued its approach, showing no signs of slowing down or changing course. Dexar felt his patience wearing thin. No one ignored hegemony authority. No one. Weapons officer, target the unknown vessel. Target locked, sir. Unknown vessel, this is your final warning. Submit to. The object stopped, not slowed down. Not decelerated gradually. Stopped. Instantly. From impossible speed to 0. Velocity with no transition time at all. Every officer on the bridge stared at their instruments in disbelief. The readings showed that the object had experienced forces that should have turned it into scattered atoms. Yet it hung motionless in space, as if nothing had happened. Sir, the communication officer said, his voice shaking, we are receiving a transmission. Put it on the main screen. The display flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a face unlike any in the hegemony databases. The creature had pale skin, dark hair, and 2 eyes set in a symmetrical arrangement. It wore what appeared to be a simple blue and black uniform. Greetings, the creature said, speaking perfect hegemony standard without any trace of an accent. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran vessel Wanderer's Dream. We request permission to enter hegemony space. Captain Dexar felt his world tilt slightly. The creature was speaking their language perfectly, but no species outside the hegemony had ever learned their tongue. And that word, Terran, sparked a distant memory from his military history classes. State your species and planet of origin, he demanded. We are human beings from the planet Earth. Captain Vasquez replied calmly. Though Earth itself no longer exists in the form you might remember. The bridge fell silent. Every officer turned to stare at the screen. Earth. Humans. Those words were in the historical databases, filed under extinct species and conquered worlds. That is impossible, Dexar said. Humans were destroyed 400 years ago. We bombarded your planet until your cities were ash. Captain Vasquez smiled, and there was something unsettling about that expression. You bombarded Earth's first-wave colonies, Captain. The cities you destroyed were mining settlements and research stations. You never found our real worlds. Our records show complete sterilization of the human species. Your records are incomplete. Dexar felt a chill run down his spine. If humans had survived, if they had been developing their technology for 400 years in secret, then this situation was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. "Weapons officer," he said quietly, "prepare to fire." "I would not recommend that course of action," Captain Vasquez said, somehow hearing his whispered command. "We are not here for conflict. We are explorers. You will submit to inspection and questioning. I am afraid that will not be possible. Then you will be destroyed. Again, not possible." Dexhar's anger flared. "You underestimate hegemony firepower. This ship can destroy planets. Captain, may I demonstrate something?" Before Dexhar could respond, the space around the human ship began to change. Reality seemed to twist and bend, creating patterns of light that hurt to look at. The inexorable truth sensors went wild, showing impossible readings of energy manipulation on a scale they had never encountered. "What are you doing?" Dexhar demanded. "Adjusting local space-time to make your weapons ineffective." Captain Vasquez replied as casually as if she were commenting on the weather. "We have learned many interesting things in the past 4 centuries. Weapons officer, fire." "Firing, sir." The inexorable truth's main weapons discharged, sending beams of concentrated energy that could melt mountains toward the human ship. But the beams simply curved away, bending through space as if the laws of physics had been rewritten. "Your weapons are based on directing energy through normal space-time," Captain Vasquez explained. "We have moved our ship slightly outside normal space-time. Your weapons cannot touch us." Captain Dexhar felt his mouth go dry. "What do you want?" "As I said, we are explorers. We have been observing the development of various species in this region for some time. The hegemony has become quite interesting to study." "Observing? For how long?" "Oh, about 3 centuries now. We wanted to see if you would develop beyond your current level of technological and social complexity. The results have been disappointing." The communication officer leaned over to whisper in Dexhar's ear. "Sir, our sensors are detecting 17 more objects approaching our position." On the display, new dots of light appeared around them. 17 more human ships, each moving with the same impossible speed and demonstrating the same reality-bending capabilities as the first. "Captain Dexhar," Captain Vasquez said, "I believe your superiors will want to speak with us. We have much to discuss about the future of this region of space." Dexhar looked around at his crew, seeing his own shock and fear reflected in their faces. The most powerful ship in the hegemony fleet was helpless against technology they could not begin to understand. "What? What do you plan to do?" "That depends entirely on the hegemony's response to our presence," Captain Vasquez replied. "We hope for a peaceful coexistence, but we are prepared for other possibilities." The human ship began to move again, but this time it was moving toward the hegemony core worlds, and there was nothing the inexorable truth could do to stop it. Admiral Kethver stared at the tactical display in the main war room, his hands trembling slightly as he counted the red dots surrounding their core worlds. 18 human ships had appeared throughout hegemony space, each one demonstrating technology that made their entire fleet obsolete. How did they get there? He asked for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. "We do not know, sir," replied Commander Texna, his voice hollow with defeat. "Our sensors show them simply appearing from nowhere. No jump signatures, no engine trails, no energy buildups. One moment space was empty, the next moment they were there." Fleet Admiral Zeshara entered the room, her face gray with exhaustion. She had been in emergency meetings with the Hegemony Council for 6 straight hours, trying to explain how their perfect empire had been infiltrated by ghosts from the past. "What is the status of our fleet?" she asked. "All ships have been ordered to battle stations," Kethver replied. "We have 300 vessels positioned throughout our territory, ready to engage. And what good will that do? Zeshura said bitterly. The inexorable truth could not even touch one human ship. How can our entire fleet succeed where our most advanced vessel failed? Chief Analyst Morden looked up from his data screens. Admiral, I have been studying the recordings from Captain Dexhara's encounter. The humans are not simply more advanced than us. They appear to have evolved beyond the physical limitations that constrain our technology. Explain. Our ships move through space by pushing against it. Their ships seem to step outside of space entirely. Our weapons direct energy through normal physics. Their defenses operate outside normal physics. We are not just facing superior technology. We are facing beings who have transcended the rules we thought governed the universe. Admiral Kethver felt anger burning in his chest. For 3,000 years, the hegemony had been the supreme power in this region. They had conquered worlds, enslaved species, and built an empire that stretched across 47 star systems. They could not simply become obsolete overnight. Order the fleet to attack, he commanded. Sir? Commander Texner looked shocked. You heard me. Order all ships to engage the human vessels. We will not surrender our empire to a handful of primitives. Admiral Kethver, Zeshura said carefully. Perhaps we should attempt to negotiate. No. We are the hegemony. We do not negotiate with inferiors. Kethver activated the fleet communication system, broadcasting to all 300 ships scattered throughout their territory. All vessels, this is Admiral Kethver. You are ordered to engage and destroy the human intruders. Show them the power of the hegemony. For a moment, hope filled his heart as he watched his ships move toward their targets. 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy against 18 mysterious vessels. Surely numbers would count for something. The hope lasted exactly 47 seconds. On the tactical display, the red dots representing human ships simply vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. 300 hegemony vessels found themselves firing at empty space. Where did they go? Kethver demanded. Unknown, sir, Texner replied, his voice barely above a whisper. All human ships have disappeared from our sensors. Then Captain Vasquez's voice filled the war room, coming from every speaker in the facility. Admiral Kethver, that was unwise. Where are you? Kethver shouted at the ceiling. We are exactly where we were before. We have simply moved our ships into a parallel dimensional space. Your sensors cannot detect us, and your weapons cannot touch us. Show yourselves, cowards. Very well. The human ships reappeared on the tactical display, but now they were in different positions. Instead of being scattered throughout hegemony space, all 18 vessels were now surrounding the capital world of Zelaham Prime. How did you move so quickly? Zeshura asked. Distance is a relative concept when you can manipulate space-time, Captain Vasquez replied. We can be anywhere in your territory in the time it takes you to form the thought. Morden pulled up a new display showing energy readings from the capital system. What he saw made his blood freeze. Admirals, he said, his voice shaking. The humans are not just surrounding our capital. They are demonstrating what they could do to it. On the screen, the space around Zelaham Prime was changing. Matter was being converted to energy and back again. Gravity was being bent into impossible shapes. The very fabric of reality was being twisted like clay in the hands of a sculptor. We could unmake your world, Captain Vasquez said calmly. We could turn your sun into a black hole, or move your planet to another galaxy, or simply convince the atoms in your atmosphere that they would prefer to be somewhere else. But we will not. Why not? Kethver asked, his anger finally giving way to fear. Because we remember what it was like to be where you are now. We remember being a young species that thought conquest and control were the only paths to security. We remember the terror of facing beings more powerful than ourselves. Admiral Zeshura stepped forward. What do you want from us? We want you to understand that your empire is no longer relevant, Captain Vasquez replied. You built your power on the belief that you were the most advanced beings in the galaxy. That belief was always an illusion, but now the illusion has ended. You mean to conquer us? Conquest is a primitive concept. We have no interest in ruling over other beings. We are explorers seeking to understand the universe and our place in it. Mordan studied the readings from around Zelahan Prime. The humans were demonstrating control over fundamental forces that hegemony science said were impossible to manipulate. They could reshape matter with thought, bend time to their will, and step between dimensions as easily as walking through a doorway. If you do not want to conquer us, Zishara said slowly, what happens now? That is your choice to make. You can continue trying to maintain your empire through force and fear. But understand that your empire now exists only because we allow it to exist. Every world you control, every species you have conquered, every ship in your fleet, they all continue to function only because we choose not to interfere. The tactical display showed the 18 human ships beginning to move again. But this time, they were heading away from hegemony space. Where are you going? Kefir asked. To continue our exploration. We have seen what we came to see. Will you return? Perhaps. That depends on what you do with the knowledge we have given you. One by one, the red dots vanished from the display as the human ships departed. Within minutes, all traces of their presence were gone, leaving only the shocked silence of beings who had discovered that their universe was far stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. Admiral Kefir slumped into his chair, staring at the empty display. In less than 72 hours, everything he had believed about the hegemony's place in the galaxy had been shattered. They were not the supreme power. They were not even close. They were children playing with toys, and the adults had just shown them what real power looked like. 3 months had passed since the humans departed, and the Hegemony Council chamber had become a battlefield of ideas. Admiral Zeshara sat at the massive circular table, listening to the same arguments that had raged for weeks. We must increase our military spending, declared Councillor Vorthak, his scales flashing angry red. Build new ships, develop new weapons. The humans caught us unprepared. It will not happen again. With what technology? Replied Councillor Messaira, her voice tired from repeating the same points. They demonstrated abilities that our best scientists cannot even begin to explain. We cannot fight beings who can step outside of physics itself. Admiral Kefir had aged 10 years in 3 months. The proud officer who once commanded the border fortress now sat quietly in the corner, his confidence shattered by the encounter with human technology. Perhaps, he said slowly, we are asking the wrong questions. The chamber fell silent. Kefir had barely spoken during the council meetings, still processing what had happened to his worldview. What do you mean? Asked Fleet Admiral Zeshara. We keep debating how to respond to the humans, how to defend against them, how to maintain our empire despite them. But maybe the real question is whether our empire is worth maintaining. The reaction was immediate. Half the council erupted in angry protests, while the other half leaned forward with interest. You speak treason, Vorthak declared. I speak truth, Kefir replied calmly. For 3,000 years, we have told ourselves that conquest equals strength, that control equals security. The humans showed us beings who have transcended the need for either. Chief Analyst Morden entered the chamber carrying a datapad filled with reports from across hegemony space. The information he had gathered painted a picture of an empire in crisis. Counselors, he announced, I have updates from our territory. 7 systems have declared independence since the human encounter. 12 conquered species have begun rebellion movements. Our tributary worlds are questioning why they should continue paying taxes to an empire that cannot protect them from beings who consider us irrelevant. Then we crush the rebellions. Vorthik shouted. We show them hegemony strength. What strength? Morden asked quietly. Every being in our territory saw our fleet helplessly fire at empty space, while human ships moved through dimensions we cannot even detect. Our strength was always based on the belief that we were supreme. That belief is gone. Counselor Messera activated a holographic display showing reports from their intelligence networks. The humans have not returned, but their message spreads throughout the galaxy. Other species speak of transcendence, of evolution beyond conquest and control. Some of our own people are beginning to ask why we continue to rule. Through fear when there are clearly better paths. Admiral Zeshara stood and walked to the great window that looked out over the capital city of Zelahan Prime. Below, millions of beings went about their daily lives, unaware that their leaders struggled with questions that had no easy answers. What would you have us do? She asked. Abandon everything we have built? Let our empire collapse? Maybe, Kethver said, surprising everyone, including himself. Maybe the question is not how to save our empire, but how to help our people evolve beyond the need for empires. The communication panel activated, and suddenly Captain Vasquez's face appeared on the main screen. The human looked exactly as she had 3 months ago, calm and confident. Greetings, Hegemony Council. I hope we are not interrupting anything important. Zeshara hurried back to her seat. Captain Vasquez, we did not expect you to return. We received some interesting signals from your territory. Rebellions, independence movements, philosophical discussions about the nature of power. It appears our visit had more impact than we anticipated. Are you here to take advantage of our weakness? Weakness? Captain Vasquez smiled. We see signs of potential strength. The questioning of old assumptions is the beginning of growth. Councilor Vorthak leaned forward aggressively. If you think the hegemony will simply surrender, we think the hegemony has an opportunity to become something greater than it ever was before. Captain Vasquez interrupted gently. But that choice must be yours to make. What choice? Messira asked. The choice between evolution and extinction. Not physical extinction. You are not a threat to us or to anyone else with our level of development. But the extinction of relevance. You can continue to cling to an empire built on outdated concepts of power, watching it slowly crumble as more species realize there are better ways to live. Or you can choose to grow. Admiral Kethver found himself speaking without conscious decision. What would growth look like? That is for you to discover. We followed a path that worked for humanity, but every species must find its own way. We can tell you that the first step is always the same, recognizing that true strength comes not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. The chamber was quiet for long minutes. Finally, Admiral Zeshara spoke. If we chose the path of growth, would you help us? We would offer guidance if requested, but the work must be yours. Transcendence cannot be given as a gift. It must be earned through the hard process of becoming more than you were. Mordon activated his datapad and projected new information. Several of our former tributary worlds have contacted us with interesting proposals. Instead of tribute payments, they want to establish mutual research agreements. They want to work together to understand what the humans showed us. You see? Captain Vasquez said. The process has already begun. Some of your people are ready to move beyond empire and toward cooperation. And if we refuse? Vorthik asked. Then you refuse. We will not force change upon you, but understand that the galaxy has seen what is possible. Beings throughout this region now know that there are alternatives to conquest and control. Your empire may survive for a while longer, but it will become increasingly irrelevant as others choose different paths. The human captain stood up, preparing to end the transmission. We will be departing this region soon to continue our exploration of the galaxy. We may not return for several centuries. What you become in that time will determine whether we find a species worth knowing when we return. Wait, Admiral Kethver said suddenly. When you were conquered by the hegemony 400 years ago, how did you respond? Captain Vasquez paused, and for the first time, her expression showed something deeper than calm confidence. We were angry. We wanted revenge. We spent 50 years developing weapons to strike back at you. What changed? We realized that becoming like our conquerors would make us no better than they were. So instead of building weapons, we built understanding. Instead of seeking revenge, we sought transcendence. We discovered that the greatest victory over those who would control you is to become impossible to control. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in silence. Outside the great window, the capital city continued its daily routine, but Admiral Kethver knew that everything had changed. So, Admiral Zeshara said finally, "What do we choose?" Admiral Kethver looked around the table at faces filled with uncertainty, fear, and hope. For 3,000 years, the hegemony had been built on the certainty of their own superiority. Now they faced a future where certainty itself had become obsolete. "We choose to grow," he said quietly. "We choose to become worthy of the galaxy we thought we ruled. It would not be easy. It would not be quick. But for the first time in millennia, the hegemony had a chance to become something greater than an empire. They had a chance to become a civilization.